Chair.
Senator Roberts, do you have questions for the AFP?
Yes, I do, please.
Okay, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for appearing tonight. Just before the break, Commissioner, the last break, did you say you revoked the COVID vaccine mandates on your police yesterday?
I can answer that. Thank you for the question, Senator. You might recall last time we appeared at this committee back in November, we did disclose that we had undertaken a review of the COVID-10, or the CO10 policy, Commissioner's Order 10, which related to the COVID vaccines. That review, as at November, had been completed and supported by our Enterprise Operations Board. I mentioned at our last hearing in November that the next phase for us to do, as per the legislation, as per the Work Health Safety Act, was to undergo genuine workforce consultation. So throughout December and January we have undertaken that genuine consultation with the workforce, which included comments back that were supportive and not supportive. In consideration of that consultation, the Commissioner, yes, he has determined that Commissioner's Order 10 is to be revoked, and that was announced to the workforce, including our internal website has a range of frequently asked questions and information for staff to address the issues and concerns that were raised across that consultation process.
So is it true that, am I accurate in saying that they were revoked yesterday?
No, the Commissioner's Order 10 was signed off as revoked by the Commissioner on the 13th of February. It was announced to the workforce this week.
Okay, thank you. Why did you revoke the vaccine mandates? I know you've been through a process. I don't need to hear about that again with respect. But what was the reason they were revoked?
Thank you, Senator. So throughout the process since the Commissioner's order was put in place, we did undertake regular reviews and looking at that policy. As we talked about before in this forum, it was an important policy for us at a time to protect both our workforce and the community, particularly the vulnerable communities that we are working with across the Pacific and other areas of the globe. But the most recent review in relation to reflecting on the health advice from our Chief Medical Officer as well as ATAGI and others, we determined that risk posed didn't necessitate a specific Commissioner's order anymore because rather than it being a global pandemic, the status of COVID had been downgraded. So we made that determination through that internal review and doing an updated risk assessment treatment plan.
Given that nothing's changed, arguably in recent years, certainly in many months, why did it take so long to revoke the vaccine mandates?
As we've talked about here previously, Senator, whilst some other agencies and the advice had changed around the risk to the community, we were conscious that we have a workforce that we need to be able to readily deploy at any time, and we are deploying to vulnerable communities. So our assessment was not just to follow the general community advice, it was to undertake our own internal assessment. So we held that policy in place for a longer period of time to protect both our workforce and the community, but have determined now is the time to revoke that policy.
Given the injections did not stop people getting COVID and did not stop people transmitting COVID, why were the mandates implemented?
Based on the health advice, both from government and from our Chief Medical Officer, it was to minimise the risk to both our members and to the vulnerable community. So acknowledging, yes, of course, Senator, you're correct, the COVID vaccine didn't prevent people getting it or prevent people transmitting it, but it did mitigate that risk.
So on the evidence of the Chief Medical Officer and the ATAGI agencies, health agencies?
Yes.
Did they provide you with the evidence? So I'm asking, on what evidence?
I'll have to take that on notice, Senator, but essentially we take the we considered the advice coming from ATAGI and others externally. We considered the risk to our people by undertaking our own risk assessment treatment plan internally, and that's in consideration of the way in which we deploy staff, where we're deploying to, the nature of our operations, etc. So for some time, our internal position was that we needed to maintain that vaccination requirement for the safety of our members and for the safety of the communities that we're dealing with. But as I said, we've determined, revised that risk assessment treatment plan now and determined that the Commissioner's Order 10 can be revoked.
On notice, could I have a copy of the advice from the Chief Medical Officer and ATAGI, please?
I'll take that question on notice. Thanks, Senator.
Thank you. And also your own deliberations within the AFP, please. I'd like to know what drove the conclusion, and particularly your risk assessment. I'd like to see the risk assessment.
Thank you, Senator. I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. The inefficacy of the COVID injections in stopping transmission was known well before yesterday. Why did it take so long to revoke?
As I mentioned, Senator, our decision to have that Commissioner's Order in place wasn't just based on ATAGI and other advice, it was our internal position as well in consideration of our own risk assessment treatment plans. We went through a thorough process to make sure that before we revoked it, we were being thorough in our assessment. So as I previously talked about, we did an internal review that Deputy Commissioner Gale's team led. That review then came to our internal Enterprise Operations Board for consideration. We supported the position of the review, and then as per the WHS Act, we undertook workplace consultation prior to making a decision, and that's a requirement under legislation.
Could I, on notice again, could I have any evidence that you considered within the AFP in making the decision and why it took so long?
Yes, Commissioner, I'm happy to take that on notice to provide that plan.
I haven't been promoted yet.
Oh, Senator, sorry.
It's coming now.
It's coming late.
It's coming, mate.
It's past my bedtime.
Just hold on.
It's past my bedtime too. Two more questions, very briefly. Why did you did you mandate the AstraZeneca shots that were later withdrawn?
Senator, our Commissioner's Order 10 required that staff had to have 2 vaccinations. We didn't mandate which vaccination that needed to be, but I'm happy to take on notice if you need more clarity around that.
Commissioner, thank you. Last question, Chair. Commissioner, will you apologise to police who basically were forced to take the AstraZeneca shot?
I don't know what evidence you have there, Senator. I'll have to take that on notice.
They were withdrawn from UK use and other countries, I believe, on the basis of a court case in Britain, and also withdrawn in this country, although I understand the Federal Health Department did not withdraw them until quite some time later. I'd like to know why they were mandated.
You mean that type of vaccination, Senator Roberts?
Yes, the AstraZeneca brand.
I think the Commissioner, sorry, I'm not going to answer for the Commissioner, but I think he's taken it on notice.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you all for appearing.
Thank you. I hope you're enjoying whatever regional town in Queensland you seem to be zooming in from. I'm sure it's a fabulous place.
Nice and cool.
Enjoy.